Good evening and welcome to the 551st episode of Travel Witch Radio. I'm Dan Schlossberg and we are in the 13th season of Travel Witch Radio, the show that lets you enjoy the pleasures of travel from the comfort of your armchair. Every week at this time, we talk to people representing destinations, hotels, airlines, railroads, car rental companies, and others in the world of travel and hospitality, from authors and bloggers to broadcasters and publicists. If it's got anything to do with travel, it's got everything to do with Travel Witch Radio. And our guest tonight is Kate Holden, Director of Public Relations for Visit Yosemite Madera County. Welcome, Kate, to Travel Witch Radio.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
It's my pleasure. And now that we've passed Memorial Day, Kate, isn't this peak visitation season for Yosemite National Park?
It is peak visitation season now. The summer is very busy for us. The kids are almost out of school, so road trips and summer vacations and long getaways are on the horizon. And something that I wanted to note before we get kind of into all of the Yosemite, the exciting things in Yosemite, is that Yosemite National Park is requiring reservations to enter the park or drive through it this year. It's just certain days and times until October 27th, but I did want to mention that straight off the top.
Is there still time for last-minute planners to book accommodations, and what kind of accommodations can they find?
Absolutely. It might be a little bit more difficult to get those reservations inside the park boundaries. Those tend to book out about a year in advance because Yosemite is so popular and beautiful in the summer. So the Southern Gateway to Yosemite has tons of accommodation options, everything from campsites on beautiful Bass Lake to incredible vacation rentals to traditional hotels, beds and breakfasts, lakeside resorts, and we even have a European chateau for those who want to have a little bit more of a luxurious vacation. So there's lots of options.
Please tell our visitors where Yosemite is located. How close is it to San Francisco, for example, and is it in the heart of the Sierra Nevada mountains?
Yes, it is. That's a great question. So Yosemite National Park is essentially right in the middle of California. In fact, the geographic center of California is in the town of North Fork, which is just 27 miles south of Yosemite. So from San Francisco, it's about a 3.5 hour drive. From Los Angeles, depending on traffic, of course, it can be 4 to 5.5 hours. And then Oakhurst, which is the largest gateway town to Yosemite, is about 45 minutes north of Fresno Yosemite International Airport. So that's a great option if you're flying in as well.
How is your winter snowpack, and what kind of conditions should drivers expect in this early summer?
So early summer, right now, it is all the roads are clear, minus Tioga Pass or Tioga Road. There's still snow on that, but we had a wonderful winter here. In the high country, the winter rangers reported 54 inches of snow total. So it was not as intense as last year, but by the end of April, we had 100% of the snowpack that we normally do at this time. So that's incredible. So yeah, as of now, Glacier Point Road, Yosemite Valley, Mariposa Grove, Tuolumne Grove, and Hetch Hetchy are all open to the public with no chain restrictions. Tioga Road, they have almost completely plowed it. But it's not open just yet. They're still getting some snow off the road.
Well, I went to school in Syracuse at Syracuse University. 54 inches is like one night's worth of snow. It's nothing right there.
It definitely ebbs and flows a little bit. Down in Oakhurst, we had a snowstorm this year where we got about 5 inches of snow in town, and that's a lot for us. We normally get about 2 inches annually. So it totally depends, but we had 100% of the snowpack for the Yosemite area, which is amazing. That's great.
It makes everything so much more photogenic with the blue sky.
It does.
I've been to Yosemite several times. Really, really one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Are there alternatives to driving? We hear traffic can be a problem in the summer, but tours know exactly where they're going and don't have to worry about parking.
Yes, that's so true. So we always suggest, if it's your first time, especially, or if you're coming in the summer and you don't want to worry about parking, we suggest booking with a local tour operator. We have several in the Southern Gateway that are absolutely incredible. They pick you up from the hotel. Usually they pack a lunch, depending on which tour you book, and then you don't have to worry about reservation, parking, details, anything like that. You just get to enjoy the park and learn about Yosemite and the flora and fauna, the geology, and the human history. Another option for folks, if you don't want to do like a full day tour, is you can book a ticket for the YARTS bus, which is the Yosemite Area Regional Transportation System. That picks up along Highway 41, starting in Fresno in June, and then all the way up through Fish Camp at Tenaya Lodge is the last stop. But the YARTS bus can take you to Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias, the town of Wawona in the park, and then various stops around the valley. And that's amazing because if you take it straight into the valley, you can then take the free Yosemite Valley shuttle around to all of the amazing stops like El Capitan and, you know, Yosemite Falls and Curry Village. So it's super easy to navigate without a car.
If someone wanted to make maximum mileage at a limited time, what would you recommend?
So we curated 4 itineraries for folks who only have one day to explore the park based on the season, which are all on our website, yosemitithisyear.com. So for one day in Yosemite for the summertime, I'd recommend, first of all, making sure you have your peak hours reservation booked. And if not, go in super early before the reservation is required. So I would say get up really, really early, head straight into Mariposa Grove. You can hike among the giant sequoias there and see the grizzly giant, which is the largest giant sequoia in Yosemite. From there, I'd continue on Highway 41 up north into the park and go to Glacier Point. There are tons of trails around Glacier Point, depending on what you want to see. And from Glacier Point, you're looking 3,000 feet down into Yosemite Valley. So you can see Yosemite Falls and Half Dome and Vernal Falls and Nevada Fall, and you can see all these really amazing sights from about 3,000 feet up at Glacier Point. After Glacier Point, I'd head down into the valley. If you continue from Glacier Point to Yosemite Valley, you'll actually go through the Wawona Tunnel, which is on the other side of Tunnel View. And that's where that name comes from, Tunnel View, because you come out of the tunnel and there's the big view of the park. And then from there, I just head down into the valley, and it kind of depends on what you want to do. There's countless hikes. There's, you know, short tours around the valley, ranger-led programs, and so much more. So yeah, that was kind of the basics of what I would suggest, but we have those itineraries based on each season as well.
I think you already answered this question, but in your words, what are the can't miss highlights of Yosemite?
Glacier Point is my favorite. I've done a fair amount of traveling, and Glacier Point at sunset especially is one of my favorite views in the world. So I would say Glacier Point is definitely a can't miss, as well as Mariposa Grove because of the giant sequoias. Those are so incredibly massive. It's a good reminder of how small we are.
I haven't been to Yosemite for a while, but my highlights include taking gorgeous pictures of El Capitan and the many waterfalls, especially the Firefall. Do they still have that?
We do, yeah. So for those who have never heard of the phenomenon of Firefall, we actually call it the Horsetail Falls event because there was a Firefall event back in the past that ended in the 60s. So as to not confuse them, we call it the Horsetail Fall event. But for a few weeks in February, if the sky is clear and if we've had enough snow, there's an ephemeral waterfall called Horsetail Fall that goes over the side of El Cap. And if the sun hits it just right as the sun is setting, it illuminates it. So it looks like there's fire or lava flowing over the side of El Cap. It happens every year, but it depends on the conditions. So some years we have several days where you can view this phenomena, and then other years it's super cloudy or we didn't get enough snow and it doesn't happen. But that happens every February, so definitely check back for that.
We're talking with Kate Holden of Visit Yosemite, Madera County. What wildlife might a visitor encounter in Yosemite National Park? I remember seeing a bear very quietly looking for food.
Yeah, we do have quite a few black bears in Yosemite. I always say it's not unlikely that you'll see them, but it's also not super likely that you'll see them. They're pretty shy. But in addition to black bears, we also have around 260 species of birds in the park. So birding is super popular, especially with our beautiful meadows that we have in Yosemite Valley. In addition to the birds, sometimes you can see bobcats, coyotes, different kinds of foxes, lots of fish, snakes, frogs. And again, if you're lucky, you can see a black bear. And something that I always like to say, because I hear a lot of confusion about this, there are only black bears in Yosemite. There are no grizzly bears and no brown bears. But the fur of the black bears can range in color from kind of like a yellow blonde to like a light brown to a kind of cinnamony red and to black. So I've actually seen all of those variations of black bears in the park, but they're all black bears. They're not grizzly bears.
Have you been to other national parks, and how do they compare with Yosemite?
I have been very fortunate to explore several of our national parks over the years. Each park is so different and does a fantastic job of showcasing just how diverse the US is. I always say Yosemite is the park for the breathtaking views, just like up at Glacier Point or looking up at those giant sequoias or looking up at Yosemite Falls, my background right now. It's a park for the views. So I have also explored parks like Pinnacles, which is amazing because it's so easy to get to. Arches is incredibly beautiful in such a different way than Yosemite is. And then the wildlife watching in Yellowstone is unmatched. So I'd say we're pretty lucky to have these national parks so close to us in the US.
We mentioned snowfall earlier. Is Yosemite open all year, or are some of the roads impassable in winter?
Yosemite is open all year, and some of the roads are impassable during the winter. So it's kind of a yes, yes, a yes, and. So the park only closes for extreme weather or if there's a fire or if visitor safety is compromised in some way. But other than that, the park is open 365, 24/7. There are areas of the park that become inaccessible due to the snow. One of those areas is Tioga Pass, which is still closed because of the snow. And then another area is Glacier Point Road. That will close in the winter as well. But Badger Pass, which is the ski resort, is open during the winter, even if there's snow on the road, they plow it up until Badger Pass. But the valley in the winter is incredible. Some folks say the valley looks a little bit better with some icing around the top of the peaks. And the Curry Village ice rink opens up. So does Badger Pass, as I mentioned. We have amazing snowshoeing and cross country ski as well. So there's a lot to do in the winter in the park. Outside of the park, the Southern Gateway has a snow play area, and we have really amazing activities like ATVing with snow tracks through the Sierra National Forest. So there's a lot to check out in the winter as well. It's just a little chilly.
What about Madera County? Isn't it the Southern Gateway to Yosemite? Obviously not as big a name as Yosemite, but still much to see, including the Madera Wine Trail, Bass Lake, and the Sierra Vista Scenic Byway. Please share.
Absolutely, yeah. So Madera County is the Southern Gateway to Yosemite. It ranges from Fresno, it borders Fresno, and then it actually borders Mono County on the opposite side of the Sierra Nevadas. So it's a very long, expansive county, which means that we have amazing attractions like the Madera Wine Trail. A lot of folks don't know this, but Madera is actually one of the oldest grape growing regions in California. And we have 8 wonderful wineries along that wine trail. Bass Lake was voted one of the West's best lakes by Sunset Magazine, and it's perfect for 4 seasons of outdoor fun and with lakeside resorts and hiking trails and biking trails. Tons of events during the summer and spring and fall, and then really amazing dining there as well. And then you mentioned the Sierra Vista Scenic Byway. So that is a nearly 100-mile journey that goes through the Sierra Nevadas, and it makes its way past historic cabins, a secret giant sequoia grove, and other iconic landmarks like the Geographic Center of California in North Fork, like I mentioned earlier. So there's a lot to do in Madera County. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
What artifacts are on display at the Fossil Discovery Center, and where is it? We'd also like to know where visitors can find the giant sequoias, also known as redwoods.
Yeah, so I'll start with the Fossil Discovery Center. It's called the Fossil Discovery Center of Madera, and it's actually located in the town of Chowchilla. So on display there are fossils of Columbian mammoths, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, short-faced bears, giant sloths, camels, and more from one of the largest Middle Pleistocene era excavations in North America. And it was all found in a landfill, the Fairmead landfill, which is right across the street from where the Fossil Discovery Center is currently located. We also have a really wonderful Native American exhibit at the Fossil Discovery Center with some artifacts that are on loan from the Sierra Mona Museum and Cultural Center, which is also located in North Fork. And then you mentioned the giant sequoias as well. So the giant sequoias and the redwoods are two different trees. They're kind of like cousins. The giant sequoias live longer and are more massive, but the redwoods grow taller. So the redwoods are the tallest trees in the world, but the giant sequoias are the largest trees in the world. And those are located in 3 different groves inside Yosemite, and then that one grove outside of the park. So Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias, which is just at the southern entrance, our entrance, is the largest grove in the park. There are about, I believe it's 430 giant sequoias in Mariposa Grove. So super easily accessible from Madera County.
Is a camera with a wide angle lens the first thing a visitor should pack?
I would say so. And if you don't have that, you can actually use your cell phone on panorama mode, which is, I think, like one of the coolest tricks that I learned. So if you put your camera in panorama mode and then you switch it from horizontal to, or from vertical to horizontal, you can pan up and get a whole shot of the giant sequoias that way, which is a little trick of the trade.
Good idea. Good point. Yeah. We're talking with Kate Holden of Visit Yosemite Madera County, and you are tuned to Travel Witch Radio, now in our 13th season, with Dan Schlossberg and usually with Roger Noriega too. Check us out on iTunes, LinkedIn, Instagram, or the Travel Witch Radio Facebook page, among other places. And we're talking with Kate Holden of Visit Yosemite. Kate, we featured Tuolumne County, I never did pronounce that right, on this show a few weeks ago. Does it occupy part of Yosemite along with Madera County?
Yes, that is correct. Tuolumne County, like follow me, Tuolumne. Yeah, Tuolumne County is represents the northern entrance. So this can also be a little confusing for visitors because Yosemite itself is a national park, but it's surrounded by 4 counties and communities. So there are technically 5 entrances to Yosemite if you count Hetch Hetchy entrance, which you cannot get to the valley from Hetch Hetchy. But Tuolumne County represents the northwest entrance on Highway 120. Mariposa County represents the middle entrance on Highway 140. Madera County, my county, represents the southern entrance on Highway 41. And then all the way over on the other side of the Sierras, Mono County represents the entrance on Highway 395 or Tioga Road. So we all work together.
Hetch Hetchy?
Hetch Hetchy, yeah.
Okay, that one I can pronounce, and I'll remember it too.
Good.
For visitors looking for a bargain, do you recommend the shoulder season, spring and fall, and is peak time Memorial Day to Labor Day?
Peak time is Memorial Day to Labor Day, although this year we saw a really big increase in visitation in April, which was really interesting. Usually Memorial Day weekend is kind of the start of summer for us, but our visitor center has been bustling since early April this year. But I definitely recommend coming in the shoulder seasons. Again, the park is open all year, so it kind of depends on what you want to see. If you do want to see those waterfalls and wildflowers and kind of how it looks in my photo, in my background, March through April is a really good time to visit. And the fall is really amazing as well because that area of California has really spectacular weather through November most of the time. And, you can come in October, you can see the fall foliage. It's still 75, 80 degrees during the day. And then, it's not nearly as crowded. So you kind of have a little bit of a more private experience in the park. And rates are a little bit lower and it's less crowded in the gateway towns as well. But we're all there ready to support everyone's visits to Yosemite.
I think I know the answer to the next question, but is it true snow can fall in Yosemite any day of the year?
That is true. It's very unlikely in some areas, especially during the summer, but it can happen in the high country. We have peaks that are 12,000 feet, 11,000 feet. So they can definitely get some snow up there. If you plan on visiting the high country in the summertime, I would definitely advise bringing a rain jacket because we get those 3 p.m. thunderstorms almost every day up there. So having a rain jacket is really good.
You Lightning rod.
The lightning rod, the, the lightning can be a little bit dangerous, but as long as you're, kind of keeping tabs on the weather and not exposing yourself to the natural elements more than you should be okay.
Okay. You
Yeah.
were quite the world traveler, Kate, hailing from Michigan but living in Cape Town, South Africa, and Italy before coming to Northern California. Why did you move so often, and what made you come to California?
That's a great question. I have always been a voracious learner, and my dad really fostered that deep sense of curiosity and adventure, and whether he liked it or not, my fierce independence. I'm the youngest of five, so my dad really encouraged me to visit my brothers as often as I could when they lived in different states and different countries. I took my first cross country flight at 15 alone, and I was hooked. I visited one of my brothers in Arizona at that time. And then a different brother studied abroad in Beijing. So my dad and I went to visit him. And then I studied abroad in Cape Town for 6 months when I was an undergrad. And my dad came to visit me there, which was very cool. So, yeah. And then Italy, I found a teaching program in Italy where I could live with a family and then teach English at a local school. And that was a really incredible experience. When I came back from that, I just kind of wanted to keep traveling. And I was working at a coffee shop at the time, and one of my regulars suggested that I look into tour guiding. So 4 months later, I was on a one-way flight to San Francisco to tour guide in Northern California, and here we are. So overall, I feel I'm very privileged to have a very big family who can not only cheer me on, but store my belongings when I want to go somewhere, and then be a safe place to land if I need it. But I'm very good at solidifying my next steps after a big trip. So it's a lot of fun.
We understand you have a very active lifestyle, hiking in the summer, snowboarding in the winter, for example. Does the alpine climate agree with you?
It does, or I should say it did. I actually recently relocated to the Midwest to be closer to family. I'm from Michigan originally, but living in the Sierra Nevadas close to Yosemite for the last 5 years was absolutely incredible. The foothills are stunning, and the proximity to trails and really amazing hikes is just unbeatable. So it's really incredible. I can't wait to get back out there in a few months.
Is lightning the biggest hazard hikers face, or how about encounters with the animals?
That's a really, really good question. So I kind of mentioned it earlier. Lightning is not a huge threat to visitors or to hikers. Cliffs and waterfalls are actually the more dangerous areas. So I think we've all kind of seen those headlines online of folks falling off of cliffs, very unfortunately, while they're taking selfies. That does happen. So I would always advise folks to be aware of their surroundings when they go to take photos of other people and of themselves. And then waterfalls are a super dangerous area because people like to climb around the rocks at the base of the waterfall, but those are all slippery. And so a lot of people slip and fall, and then they have to be rescued. So I would say just make sure you're staying in areas where you're supposed to be and not going in areas where you're not supposed to be. But yeah, lightning is really only an issue if you're, say, on Half Dome when you shouldn't be. Many folks are determined to finish that Half Dome hike, even if they see clouds rolling in. But if you see clouds rolling in, it is very, very much not advised to proceed with the hike. Half Dome is a giant granite dome, 4,000 feet in the air, with metal rods hammered into it, sticking straight up. So it's basically just a giant lightning rod. So we always like to say, stay off Half Dome if you see any kind of clouds coming in. And then the other big hazard to visitors in general in the valley is other visitors. Traffic incidents are one of the most common types of injuries in the park because people are distracted by how beautiful it is and forget that they're driving a car on the road surrounded by pedestrians. So if you're the driver, always pay attention to the road. And if you're a pedestrian, make sure you're looking both ways before you cross the street.
Very good point. What advice would you give to novice hikers in Yosemite?
I would say bring a lot of water and some snacks and take your time. hiking etiquette is for folks traveling uphill, they have the right of way because it's a lot easier to keep momentum when you're going downhill or restart your momentum. It's harder to restart as you're going uphill. So that's a good tip for novice hikers. Also check the elevation changes of the hikes because you'd be very surprised at how many people don't check that. And a 4-mile hike on flat ground is, fine. A 4-mile hike with a 3,000-foot elevation change is a little bit different. So kind of, make sure you're checking those elevations and just knowing where you're supposed to be going on the trail. Always have a trail map with you.
We asked before about accommodations, but don't many people bring recreational vehicles, tents, and other camping equipment?
They do, and that is totally fine. A lot of people bring their RVs and camping setups. Campsites are available inside the park. Like I mentioned earlier, they do book up pretty quickly, about a year in advance, but you can find some available sometimes. But we also have campsites and RV spaces available in the Sierra National Forest and around Bass Lake if you can't find a reservation in the park. And you can check out recreation.gov for those campsite areas.
Okay. We have to ask about food as well. Are there good restaurants in Yosemite and Madera County?
I'm so glad you asked. There are wonderful restaurants in Oakhurst and in Madera County. Madera County is right in the middle of the agriculture industry, so we have incredible farm-to-table restaurants. Southgate Brewing Company in Oakhurst is a local favorite. They have phenomenal burgers, wood-fired pizzas, and my favorite is the beer cheese pretzels. Those are really, really delicious. We also have Idle Hour Winery and Kitchen, which serves up Mediterranean-style dishes with their fantastic wines. That's one of the wineries along the wine trail. If you're heading there, I would definitely try the Chorizo al Vino Tinto. I didn't do a great job pronouncing that, but it's fantastic. It's chorizo that they cook in their red wine. And then the roasted salmon is another one of my favorites there. And for folks who like barbecue, we have a ton of barbecue options as well. Smokehouse 41 in Oakhurst was just rated one of the best barbecue restaurants in the United States by Yelp reviews, actually. So that's really amazing. And then we also have fine dining experiences as well at the Elderberry House restaurant, which is at the Chateau de Sereau. So that's, again, just the tip of the iceberg. I didn't even talk about Bass Lake at all. We have amazing restaurants at Bass Lake, too.
Finally, Kate, is there anything that you would like to add that I haven't asked you?
I feel like we've done a pretty good job. There are so many more resources and so many more activities at our website, yosemiteThisYear.com. If you're heading up sometime this summer, I would definitely recommend checking out the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad. That's a 1-hour excursion through the Sierra National Forest on a historic Shea steam train. And it's really incredible. It's one of the most popular activities in our area. And yeah, we just there's so much more to explore. There's Yosemite, obviously, but there's a lot more as well to make it a really good, full-rounded vacation.
I'm glad you mentioned the Shea locomotives because I rode them in Cass, West Virginia, and it was a great experience. I love steam trains. So
nice.
It was really cool.
Yeah. The Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad is really spectacular. And we have 2 of those Shea engines there, which is amazing. I believe there's less than 10 in the world.
Right. Most of them are probably in Cass, West Virginia.
Most of them are probably in Cass, West Virginia. Exactly.
Which is very mountainous. So anyway, okay. Finally, how do Travel Itch Radio listeners learn more about Yosemite and Madera County?
Yeah, so if you're in the area, if you're in Oakhurst, please stop in the Visitor Center. It is located at 40343 Highway 41 in Oakhurst. We have an incredible team of volunteers there who assist visitors every day with their trip planning. We also have menus, maps, rack cards for different restaurants and activities. And we have hot coffee and free bathrooms as well. So definitely stop in. And if you are kind of planning a little bit further out and you have questions, you can always visit our website, yosemiteThisYear.com. We have tons of resources there. We have a whole Stay With Us page. All of our restaurants are listed on our website. All of the activities that we have are available on there as well.
Our guest tonight on Travel Witch Radio has been Kate Holden of Visit Yosemite and Madera County. Thank you for being our guest, Kate.
Thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure. And viewers, before you hang up on us, this is the 50th anniversary of the home run that broke Babe Ruth's record, hit by Hank Aaron. With Father's Day right around the corner, now's your chance to share the spirit with my new biography, Home Run King, The Remarkable Record of Hank Aaron, featuring a foreword by Dusty Baker, who's now back with the Giants, by the way. This 265-page hardcover explores Aaron's contributions as a home run hitter and a humanitarian, an athlete and an advocate for civil rights. That's Home Run King, The Remarkable Record of Hank Aaron. Get it today on Amazon.com or come to my book signings in Cooperstown, June 20th and July 20th. And that's it for this edition of Travel Witch Radio. This is Dan Schlossberg saying thank you for your time this time until next time. Next week, same time, same place, we will talk to Anne Murray of CLIA, Cruise Lines International Association. For now, good night, stay safe, and I'm going to try to play our closing music. And here it is. If it works. Always gives me a little trouble. Here we go. Maybe you can play. There we go. Ah.